This episode of SESSLERS Something is brought to you by 23andMe. All right, we're in the lull time. Comic-Con is over. I didn't go. I'm smiling. Gamescom, PAX, that happens at the end of August. This is that time of every year in gaming where just, games aren't coming out. Kind of scrambling, looking for discussable topics. Luckily this year we do have new consoles coming out, and as I've noticed, anything that says DRM, Xbox One, or PS4 seems to kind of spike. People seem to get engaged with that. So there is a lot of discussion around it, and it's excitable, to say the very least. I've tried to be a little bit more moderated in my opinions on both the Xbox One and the PS4, and as moderated as I attempt to be with it, I get hit with a lot of words. Apologist, I'm in the pay of Microsoft, or I'm in the pay of Sony. No one has accused me of being in the pay of Nintendo. There's at least one consistent baseline that we can play with there. And I've talked about fanboys in the past, and so I'm going to do it again, but once again, attempting to do it in a moderated fashion, not like my famous Killzone one, where I went after everybody. Now, fanboy obviously comes from fanatic, with what I assume is kind of a pejorative of putting boy at the end of it, that it is something that isn't fully matured, that hasn't had its testicles drop. And fan, of course, is short for fanatic, which somehow has been really transposed into something that's a little bit more lighthearted, whereas fanatic really does mean that you're denying any extraneous opinion so that you can hold on to yours. I think a avid viewer of Fox News would fall into that. So I pose a question to all of you guys. Is there anybody out there, when it comes to consoles, or if it comes to a game, that would self-identify themselves as a fanboy? That under sort of those definitions, that almost have an immature adoration of something at the exclusion of any contrary information. I'm really trying to get a better understanding of that. The new word I've been getting a lot lately has been apologist, which is an interesting one, given other names that I've been called in recent years. And I'm just sort of fascinated by this sort of evolution and this grouping around sort of corporate entities and kind of raging on their behalf without ever receiving a paycheck from it. I brought this up in the past, and people get very defensive. I'm trying to present this in a non-defensive manner as to why you become so passionate, so angry, and really so nasty sometimes in discussions of this matter, where your decision is absolutely your decision to make, and so is somebody else's. And this idea of trying to self-identify from a product, a thing, it's a box that plays video games, can bring out so much ire and contempt in people that I've always wondered what the psychology of it is. I am in a unique vantage point in that I have to kind of consume all games, and as a result, I really don't need to bother with having a strong affinity for one over the other. It can just kind of, really does go back and forth throughout an entire generation. I definitely prefer the Xbox 360 as a console at the launch of this console generation, but as time went on, I really started to have more of a preference towards Sony just because of the original exclusive titles that they were putting out on the system. It really didn't change which console I was playing at any one given time. So I honestly can say I do not get to have the luxury of being a fanboy, and I guess I want to know, what am I missing? Hey, a quick moment to thank our sponsor, 23andMe. Have you ever wondered what you might learn from your DNA? 23andMe actually enables anyone to explore their own DNA. It comes from a saliva analysis of approximately 1 million data points in your DNA. If you join the service, you'll receive over 200 personalized reports from your DNA that cover health risks, physical traits, carrier status for conditions that could be passed on to your children, and more. This may all sound intimidating, but the whole process is quite simple. First, you buy a DNA kit online. Then you mail in your saliva sample, and in a few weeks, you receive your 200 health, trait, and ancestry reports. So what are you waiting for? Learn more about yourself by going to 23andme.com/Sessler. Here we go with our question. It's from Glide1010. Hey Adam, I've been having something nagging at me. It seems like the price of games have been dropping substantially quicker after release. It used to be a game price dropped in about a year. Now it takes about a month or even a few weeks to get a substantial price drop, or an Amazon Gold Box deal to drop the price by half or more, let alone Steam sales. Do you think it is a good thing or a bad thing that there are these price drops so quickly? I'm not seeing prices dropping all that much inside of a brick and mortar store where you're actually buying the physical game. I might be wrong on that one, but yes, I agree. When you're looking at digital sales of games, I'm seeing a lot of that. And by digital sales, I actually mean, you can buy the disc that comes in a package from Amazon, but your purchase is through a digital communication. I think there's good and bad with this. The bad, we'll start with that, is that with the games that are coming out, fewer and fewer are really hitting that kind of mega hit status, and those revenues that game companies are hoping to get tighter and tighter, because they're having to spend a lot of money on the marketing. They're having to spend a lot of money on just, trying to get that game out there and into people's minds, that they're not seeing margins that are all that tasty. Now, the retailers, they're stuck with a lot of games that maybe people aren't buying, and that's a way to stimulate those sales. Where I see the good is when it is something like Steam, when it is something like good old games, that when you drop something to $5 for a few hours, you're probably not gonna make a ton of money on it, but you are entreating people to buy games in that manner. And whenever I've gone to one of the Steam sales, I'll go in for one game at $5. But since I'm there and I've only spent $5, I'll buy another and another. And it really does help reinvigorate older catalogs. It does help open people up to maybe different types of games where the $60 price tag may seem really prohibitive and they don't know if they're gonna like it enough that they don't wanna risk it. Hey, you can make a risk at a much cheaper price. You might find a genre, you might find a developer that you really didn't have much of a relationship with, and now you do. I really hope that this is what we're going to see with the next gen consoles, which it's very clear they are trying to push the digital sales of games where you never go in a store, you never get anything with a box. I know a lot of people, we've discussed this quite a bit, really still want that fun of having something in their hand that maybe if there's something that replaces it, be it a better price, a sense of exploration, and if they're curated well and you can find games that you didn't ever hear about before, well, we could be expanding our vocabulary and our catalog of games very quickly. Hey guys, two things are happening on Rev3 Games this week. We are going back to classic games with spoiled games. The first one up is Uncharted 2, soon to follow, Shadow of the Colossus. Also, I have an interview with Alexei Pajitnov, creator of Tetris. This does not get to happen very often. I recommend checking it out.